need to abandon the coarse natures of the class. Even though one is devoid of the seeds of the passions during the path of non-interruption, still one has not abandoned their quality of unfitness. In order to abandon that, one therefore produces the path of liberation and realizes the cessation through discrimination, which is unconditioned, of this class of passions. Even though the path of insight is born and also eliminates the results of action of the evil destinies, etc., still here we now speak of passions that can generate these results, because they are their roots.
Consequently, in the first stage it is said that one eliminates two delusions as well as their coarseness. The first is the delusion of attachment to a self and dharmas, which is the obstacle consisting of the quality of being an ordinary person of these 10 obstacles. The second is the delusion as defilement of the evil destinies, which are the results of action of the evil destinies. You should understand that the class, delusion, refers generally to delusions and pertains to the following as well. Alternately, that, delusion, refers only to the intense and weak classes of obstacles, which together generate these two delusions. The term coarseness indicates the seeds of these two or the quality of unfitness generated by the two. Just as entrance into the second samadhi is said to eliminate the faculty of suffering, but even though the eliminated faculty of suffering is neither actual nor seeds, it still is called coarseness, so is it in this matter. The term coarseness should be understood analogously for subsequent stages. Although it is really the two obstacles that are eliminated by the first stage, still the intention of the treatise, with regard to the quality of being ordinary beings, is to interpret it as the obstacle to that which is to be known, because it is said that the 10 kinds of ignorance are not defiled. Ignorance is the same as the delusions of the 10 categories of obstacles.
Adherents of the two vehicles are also able to eliminate the obstacle of the passions, and because they are common to the two vehicles and bodhisattvas, they are not what is being referred to here. Also, the 10 kinds of ignorance are not defiled is said only on the basis of what is eliminated through cultivation during the 10 stages. Even though in this stage one also subdues the passions and eliminates their coarseness, this is not the true intention of the text. One does not eliminate the propensities, and therefore this is not what is said. In reality, during the path of cultivation of the first stage, one also eliminates part of the innate obstacle to that which is to be known. However, here, when the text just speaks of elimination at the very first stage, elimination in the subsequent 9 stages should be understood analogously. Since one has dwelt for a long time in the period of the stage of fulfillment, one must in reality continue to eliminate the obstacles that must be eliminated. Otherwise, there would be no differences in the paths during the 3 periods, i.e., 3 incalculable eons.
Therefore, it is said that having obtained the comprehensions, later, in the state of the path of cultivation of the 10 stages, the bodhisattva only cultivates the path that eternally eliminates the obstacle to that which is to be known and retains the obstacle of the passions in order to assist his vow to accept birth, to help other sentient beings. He is not like those of the 2 vehicles who hasten to perfect quiescence. Therefore, the state of the path of cultivation does not eliminate the passions, because it is only at the time of Buddhahood that one suddenly eliminates them. The second obstacle is the obstacle consisting of bad conduct, that is, part of the obstacle to that which is to be known that is innate, along with the 3 actions of body, speech, and mind, of unintentional offenses that are generated by that obstacle. It obstructs extremely pure moral precepts of this second stage. When one enters the second stage, one can definitely eliminate it. Consequently, the second stage is said to eliminate 2 delusions, along with their coarseness. The first is delusion consisting of slight unintentional offenses, which is the innate part of this obstacle. The second is delusion consisting of manifold actional tendencies, which are the 3 actions of unintentional offenses generated by that obstacle. Alternately, the 2 delusions are that which generates action and the delusion of not comprehending action.
The third obstacle is the obstacle of dullness, that is, one part of the obstacle to that which is to be known that is innate. It causes forgetfulness and loss of dharmas of hearing, thought, and cultivation. It obstructs the dharni of superior samadhi of the 3rd stage and the extraordinary 3 discernments that are evoked from samgati. Upon entering the third stage, one is able eternally to eliminate it.
Consequently, the third stage is said to eliminate two delusions and their coarseness. The first is the delusion consisting of craving, which is among these delusions, that which is able to obstruct superior samadhi and the discernment of cultivation. It is named delusion of craving because often in the past it was associated with the passion of craving. Now, in this stage, one acquires superior samadhi and what is achieved from cultivation, and, since that obstacle is eternally eliminated, craving is subdued accordingly, because this passion has evolved supported by that obstacle since beginningless time. The second is the obstacle regarding the dharni of perfect hearing and memory, which is among these delusions, that which is able to obstruct the dharni and the discernment of hearing and reflection.
The fourth is the obstacle of the activity of the subtle passions, that is, part of obstacle to that which is to be known that is innate, that includes the innate view of a self in the sixth consciousness. It is said to be subtle because it is the lowest class, it is not conditioned by attention, and it has been active from long ago. It obstructs dharmas that are aids to bodhi in the fourth stage, and upon entry into the fourth stage one is able to eliminate it eternally. It is given the name of passion because formerly it often arose with the same substance as the view that grasps something, as a self that arises spontaneously in the sixth consciousness. Now, in the fourth stage, since one has acquired pure dharmas that are aids to bodhi, that obstacle is eternally eliminated, and the view of a self, etc., are also eternally inactive. In the first, second, and third stages, the characteristics of the practice of giving, morality, and cultivation are the same as those of worldly people. In the fourth stage, one cultivates and acquires the dharmas that are aids to bodhi, and morality, etc., and then they are named supramundans. Therefore one is able eternally to destroy the two forms of views of self, etc.
How do we know that this view of self is associated with the sixth consciousness? Because attachment to a self and views, etc., associated with the seventh consciousness are opposed to the nature of the pure path. From the eighth stage on, they are eternally inactive, but up to the seventh stage they may still occur, because they act as supports for other passions. These are coarse and subtle, respectively, as they occur associated with either the sixth or the seventh consciousness, and there is a sequence in subduing them. Therefore this view of self, etc., is only associated with the sixth consciousness.
The words view of self, etc., also include the beginningless obstacle to that which is to be known, and includes love for samadhi and love for the dharma. That love for samadhi and the dharma have further increased in the first three stages, and upon entering the fourth stage one is able eternally to eliminate them, because the dharmas that are aids to bodhi especially oppose them. Consequently, the fourth stage is said to eliminate two obstacles as well as their coarseness. The first is the delusion consisting of love for trance states, which is that among these that accompanies love for samadhi. The second is the delusion consisting of love for the dharma, which is that among these that accompanies love for the dharma. Because of the elimination of the two delusions included in the obstacle to that which is to be known, the passions that are the two kinds of love are also never active again.
The fifth obstacle is the obstacle of the final nirvana of the lower vehicles, that is, part of the obstacle to that which is to be known that is innate. It causes dislike for samsara and anticipation of nirvana and is the same as dislike for samsara and delight in its destruction. It obstructs the path of non-differentiation of the fifth stage, and upon entry into the fifth stage one can eternally eliminate it. Consequently, the fifth stage is said to eliminate two delusions and their coarseness. The first is the delusion of exclusively intending to turn one's back on samsara, which is of these that which dislike samsara. The second is the delusion of exclusively intending to turn toward nirvana, which is of these that which delights in nirvana.
The sixth obstacle is the obstacle of the activity of coarse characteristics, that is, part of the obstacle to that which is to be known that is innate, consisting of the grasping of the activity of coarse characteristics of defilement and purity.
It obstructs the path of neither defilement nor purity of the sixth stage, and upon entry into the sixth stage one is able eternally to eliminate it. Consequently, the sixth stage is said to eliminate two delusions and their coarseness. The first is the delusion consisting of contemplating the evolving of karmic forces, which is of these that which grasps impurity, because the evolving of karmic forces is categorized as part of impurity. The second is the delusion concerning the activity of numerous characteristics, which is of these that which is attached to purity, because one grasps the characteristic of purity. Contemplation of characteristics is frequently carried out, and one is still unable to abide for a long time in contemplation devoid of characteristics.
The seventh obstacle is the obstacle of the activity of subtle characteristics, that is, part of the obstacle to that which is to be known that is innate, which is attachment to the activity of subtle characteristics of birth and cessation. It obstructs the marvelous path devoid of characteristics of the seventh stage, and upon entering the seventh stage one is able eternally to eliminate it. Consequently, the seventh stage is said to eliminate two obstacles and their coarseness. The first is the delusion concerning the activity of subtle characteristics, which is of these that which is attachment to birth, because one still grasps the subtle characteristics of birth. The second is the delusion consisting of the exclusive intention to seek characteristiclessness, which is of these that which is attachment to cessation, because one still grasps, as before, the cessation of subtle characteristics of cessation. One intends energetically to seek characteristiclessness exclusively and is still unable to generate the superior practice of contemplating existence in the contemplation of emptiness.
The eighth obstacle is the obstacle of carrying out additional practices in contemplating characteristiclessness, that is, part of the obstacle to that which is to be known that is innate, which prevents contemplation devoid of characteristics from occurring freely. In the first 5 stages, contemplation with characteristics is frequent, while contemplation devoid of characteristics is infrequent. In the 6th stage, contemplation with characteristics is infrequent, while contemplation devoid of characteristics is frequent. The 7th stage is exclusively contemplation devoid of characteristics, and even though it always continues in an unbroken series, still there is added effort. Because of the existence of added effort in the contemplation devoid of characteristics, one is not yet able freely to manifest characteristics and lands. These added efforts obstruct the effortless path of the 8th stage, and therefore when one enters the 8th stage one can eternally eliminate it, and because it is eternally eliminated one acquires 2 masteries. Consequently, the 8th stage is said to eliminate 2 delusions and their coarseness. The first is the delusion of making an effort in regard to characteristiclessness. The second is the delusion of not having mastery with regard to characteristics. Because one is prevented from mastery over characteristics, this also includes lands, because they are part of characteristics.
From the 8th stage on, because the exclusively pure path arises spontancously, the passions of the 3 realms are never active again. The subtle obstacle to that which is to be known of the 7th consciousness can still appear, because the knowledge of the emptiness of beings and its results do not oppose that obstacle. The 9th obstacle is the obstacle consisting of not desiring to practice benefiting others, that is, part of the obstacle to that which is to be known that is innate that causes one not to desire to practice diligently in order to benefit and gladden sentient beings but to enjoy cultivating one's own benefit. It obstructs the 4 unobstructed analytical knowledges of the 9th stage, and upon entering the 9th stage one is able eternally to eliminate it. Consequently, the 9th stage is said to eliminate 2 delusions and their coarseness.
The first delusion is the delusion concerning mastery of the innumerable dharmas that have been taught, innumerable names, phrases, and syllables, and continuous quick-witted eloquence. Mastery of the innumerable dharmas that have been taught is the unobstructed analytical knowledge regarding meaning, which means mastery over what is explained, so called, because all meanings are revealed in a single meaning. Mastery of innumerable names, phrases, and syllables is the unobstructed analytical knowledge of dharmas, which means mastery over that which explains, because all names, phrases, and syllables are revealed in a single name, phrase, or syllable. Mastery of continuous quick-witted eloquence is unobstructed mastery of language, which means mastery in uninterrupted exposition of sounds of words, because all sounds are revealed in a single sound.
The second delusion is the delusion regarding mastery of debate. Mastery of debate is unobstructed explanation in debate, because one skillfully grasps the suitability of capacities of beings in order to preach to them. Delusions can obstruct these four kinds of masteries, and all are included in the obstacles to the ninth stage. The 10th obstacle is the obstacle of not yet acquiring mastery over all dharmas, that is, part of the obstacle to that which is to be known that is innate, which prevents mastery over all dharmas from being acquired. It obstructs the great cloud of knowledge of dharmas of the 10th stage along with what is stored in the cloud and activities produced by it.